And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road. Anybody remember why they left for their own country by another road? Who remembers the story? Oh, bad news. Gonna go through it again. Okay. Of all the kings that we hear about in the Bible who rule over the people of Israel, some did very well and are lauded in the annals and chronicles and tales of the kings of Israel and Judah as those who were faithful unto God and did God's will and live into some measure of the vision Isaiah held out in the passage we heard, some measure of the vision Psalm 72, purportedly by King David, who pretty much is near the top of that list, held out as what a king ought to do and what a king ought to be and how you can tell what we're doing. Your King Davids and Solomons, mostly your Asas and Hezekiahs, people like that, they tend to rise to the top of the heap. As the Bible tells the story, even some of those who ruled in the time of the Maccabees, the priest, prophet kings coming between the old kingdom and then the new time that we have here. Some, of course, sink to the bottom in the biblical tale. And guess who's pretty much at the bottom of that list? King Herod. Him, his dad, his uncle, whoever it was, all the Herods worked out to be pretty bad. The only people worse were those who actually tried to bring statues into the temple. The abomination of desolation, as it's called. Pretty much everybody else is a little bit better than Herod. And Herod, of course, in this gospel is doing what I've heard that some people in power from time to time do thousands of times a year. Lie. I mean, just imagine, if you will, the concept, the possibility of a ruler over vast territories and people lying all the time. Ain't hard to do, is it? And Herod lying through his little Herod teeth about what he's going to do when they tell him where Jesus is. Let me go worship him. Well, that'd be a great idea. Go find out where he is. Tell me exactly where he's supposed to show up and exactly when you saw the star. I need to go and pay him homage, for he is better than I. He is the one whom God has sent to rule, and I understand my limitations and my weakness in this world, what I can do, what I can't do. And I, as Herod, understand what a king is for. So let me go and worship the one who's better than me. Now, how wise you got to be to know that that's a lie from start to finish? They didn't have to be wise men going to seek Jesus. They could be just your mediocre, average own person. Hey, they could be fairly low-functioning people. You know, them that sometimes can't tell when you're lying to them, even they could probably figure it out. And I mean no insult to those who struggle with things of the mind in no way, but it doesn't take much to see through the Herods of this world. It can take a lot to stop them. It can take a lot to stop the most dangerous people around them who know they're lying and support the lies. They're the most dangerous ones of all because they know what they're doing. And they tend, if you've been watching and listening, to be a little better at the lie than the one who's doing the lying on the top of the ticket. Lie with a straight face, like you don't know. Did I just hear you say that? With your own lips? Well, my Lord, maybe it's me. Wisdom is knowing not only how to spot the rulers who are full of deceit, fraud, and eventually, as this gospel delicately left out, massive and extreme violence. One of the most horrifying tales in the entire gospel tradition about what happens when Jesus is young comes right after this passage, and the wise go home by another road. Y'all know that story? Remember that story? Yeah, y'all know it. Because the Herods of this world don't take powerful, loving, God-sent opponents lightly. Nor do those who find it in their hearts and minds to serve them. That leads to the second point, kind of rooted in our thought to. Herods of this world cannot rule without minions who do their bidding, whether out of a misplaced sense of justice, a misunderstanding of duty, simple fraud, greed, or the love of money, whatever it may be. For one reason or another, they serve that which they know or ought to know is evil. And through their efforts, great evil is done. Without evil servants, the Herods of this world get nothing done. Can't do nothing. And those servants have to be both wrong and fairly good at their jobs to put that wrong into place. Take everything Psalm 72 said about what a king is supposed to do. Let me go through that. Have pity on the lowly and poor, preserve the lives of the needy, redeem their lives from oppression of violence, hold their blood to be dear, meaning of great value. To be like rain on a mown field, a very nice idea. A little bit late for the grass that was mown, but nonetheless. Right, there we go. Those who deliver the poor from their distress, especially the oppressed who have no helpers, defend the needy among the people, rescue the poor, and crush the oppressor. That is what a king is meant to do. Turn that on the opposite side of the coin and look around and see those who rule. What do they rule? Do they do, whenever possible, much the opposite of those things? Anywhere it could be, great wrong persists when those with power use it badly or use it on purpose to hurt. God is not unaware, and those who follow God are not unaware. And we, as Jesus will say later on, must be wise as serpents and like the wise who came to pay homage to him when he was a child, and yet innocent, free of guilt as doves, particularly because of how difficult it is to turn the Herods of the world into something on the ash heap of history. It takes a long time. Ironically, it took the power of Rome to get rid of him, which might not be the best solution to the problem, replacing incompetence with something even slightly more malevolent as it went on. But nonetheless, we stop with the Herods and think about that and just hold in our minds the message of this gospel story today. Those who came from the east knew somehow, through the shining of a star and their diligent attention to what the words of their gospels and their traditions and scriptures said, that the child who was born would change their world for the better. And they brought the best of what they had, and it's all symbolic and honoring what Jesus would be, the king, the servant, the shepherd, and the one who dies to save his people, you might say the martyr. All of those things they knew would be part of his story. And they knew that the sooner everybody was aware, the sooner he could get, as you might say, to work. To bring that love of God by which he was made, by which we all come to be, and by which we are redeemed, into the world in a new way, to change it in a new and powerful direction, as those who write to the Ephesians on behalf of Paul in his tradition have made known to us. This all is new. This gospel, this Christ, this power, hidden for the ages, but made known through the wisdom of God, that it might be made known to the rulers and authorities in the heavenly places, and lest we forget also in the earthly ones, so they may be undeceived. The power you have in this world, whoever you are, is for a short time only, and for a reason: to do good, to save and help those who need it the most, and to build a world that looks more like God's vision than it does one's own broken, false, or self-serving dreams. If you're not using your power for that purpose, something has gone wrong, terribly, and one hopes not permanently. But the power of the gospel is to remind us that no matter what happens on this world, God's love abides. But that because of the evil that can and too often does happen in this world, we must be vigilant never silent in the face of oppression and wrong, but always wise in what and how we do to make God's world come to be. I read a powerful story the past couple of days in the New Yorker about a little town in Syria, whose name I can't pronounce because I don't know any Arabic. But it was a little town that, in the chances and changes of their current war, found itself basically with nobody controlling it for a little while during the time that they were fighting. And so the people of that town decided to make their own government. You know, someone's got to figure out how we get the trash out of here and how to make sure people don't pick up guns and start shooting each other all day long. So they did that, right? And the story went through from years and years and years how their fortunes would ebb and flow as they just wanted to make a world in which they could be safe and at peace with their neighbors and have not this one or that one shooting them, trying to tell them what to do or dominate them and oppress them. And they suffered viciously for it from all the various sides of the conflict. All they wanted to do was live in peace, make sure everybody had enough, take care of one another, and be left quietly alone from those who wanted to oppress them. Thus they made enemies of everyone else and struggled to survive, and from what we can tell from the reports I read, struggle to this day, simply to survive in the middle of the hell that Syria has become, a land through which the wise walked on their way from the east to Bethlehem, ironically enough. A land that may have been governed better then than it is now. I do not remember exactly how things were in Jesus' day. But the vision that is laid out before us in the gospel today, what rule and authority is for, what God wants the powers and power in this world to be doing, and what, even as Jesus was a helpless child, one of the most powerful forces in his little world was actually doing, should remind us of all the lessons, well, we need to never forget, and to keep us vigilant and active as best we may be, that we too may pay him homage as the wise did, but also be wise as we respond to the Herods of this world. Seek as we may be to go to our home by another road when we are warned in a dream, to do so, but mindful that just because we are wise to their tricks doesn't mean they won't stop playing them. Doesn't mean they will stop playing them, and that we must be wise then as well in all that we do. Amen.